Board open meeting for Thursday, June 15th, 2023. I'd like to start by welcoming AJ Sharma, the municipal appointee to the Guelph Police Services Board, who is sworn in on June 8th, 2023, and will be a member of the board until the end of November 2026. I'd like to call
Donna Jennison, guest, left the call.
Acknowledgement. Today we acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation of the Anishinaabe peoples on whose traditional territories we are meeting. I'd like to, at this point I'm asking if there are any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Hearing none, I will declare that item closed. Closed session resolutions. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. I'm happy to move from the community account in the amount of $750 to Victim Services Guelph.
Do I have a seconder for that? Vice Chair Armstrong, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Next, I'd like to call upon our presentations and delegations. There is one presentation and 3 delegations at today's board meeting. I just want to remind everybody
Show conversation
of these presentations. We allowed 10 minutes to present to the board, and that we will advise you at the 9-minute mark that you have 1 minute left. So at this point, I would like to introduce Sarah Bowers, Peter, the program coordinator of Crime Stoppers Guelph Wellington, and invite you to make your presentation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with this body once again, and if it's all right, I will share my screen.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, it's just taking a moment.
Sarah Bowers Peter has shared screen in Teams.
The 2023 update for Crime Stoppers Guelph Wellington.
Sarah Bowers Peter has shared screen in Teams. Sarah Bowers Peter has shared screen in Teams.
Yes.
Okay, so as we like to every year, we come to visit you at Police Services Board. We like to show you our statistics. We're not able to disclose the specific cases or occurrences that tipsters have provided information toward, but we can talk about our stats. So these stats that you see are through to the end of April of this year. And I would draw your attention to the bottom left corner where you see our rewards are remaining consistent, just under $5,000. The 2021 amount was our high water mark, but it seems to be a bit of a trend that we're noting now.
Donna Jennison, guest, entering lobby.
We also like to show the contributions to Guelph Police Service, so you can see the year-over-year comparison. We did have a slight dip in 2022, but for this year, we seem to be back on track. Our numbers are looking good, and a significant amount of information from Crime Stoppers Guelph Wellington is going to Guelph Police Service. Just a selection of the stats from last year to demonstrate the effectiveness of the program, including 9 cases being cleared, 45 charges laid as a result of those cases being resolved, 13 individuals being arrested, and of course the recovered property and drugs. And as we've mentioned before, the rewards. This is a great one-screen snapshot to show that these are incidents and occurrences that would not have been resolved otherwise without individuals reaching out to Crime Stoppers. As you know, we have an active board of directors that are the backbone of the program. We currently sit at 10 members, and we have the breakdown throughout the communities that we serve there.
Sarah Bowers Peter has shared screen in Teams. Sarah Bowers Peter has shared screen in Teams.
We are currently recruiting for board members, so if there's anyone that you are aware of in your network of connections, we would be happy to have them apply. We are meeting by Zoom. Our board actually met last night. It seems to be the most convenient way for our members being in various areas across the territory, so to have everyone log in seems to be the way we're going to continue to go. We are looking for individuals to apply through our website, which is csgw.tips. There is an application process that one must go through that includes a criminal record check, an interview process, and of course there is a training period just to ensure that members are well versed in the program before we let them loose in the community. Fundraisers are a key component of our program, and that is because it's how we pay tipster rewards, as well as covering the costs to run the program, such as pens and handouts and promotional items. So as we've had in past years, our mulch sales in Guelph and in Mount Forest, we're just awaiting the numbers there. But our shredding events last fall were very successful. Something new, we partnered with Lady Glaze for a Crime Stoppers donut in January, which is Crime Stoppers Month, which was fun and something different for us. We also partnered with Wellington County OPP for a Lights and Sirens event, and that's something I would challenge Guelph Police Service to see if there's some way that we could possibly partner with the Guelph membership and see if we can do something fun and community-based as well.
Show conversation, unread messages.
Partnerships, and again, it's trying to keep our messaging out there to remind the public to contact Crime Stoppers, and also a creative way to have financial support. Awareness is key for the program. People don't know to use
Luke Weiler left the call.
1-800-222-TIPS, or contact us through the website if they're not aware of the program. So we're constantly doing presentations. I actually did one earlier today. Last year we did 40 presentations, which is up from 32 the year previous, coming out of that pandemic slump that we had. I have demonstrated here the list of presentations we have now. It started off being just a couple of Crime Stoppers 101 and the Seniors Crime Stoppers, and we've evolved into human trafficking, as well as our most recent offering, which is Fraud Talk. I did want to take a moment and shed a little light on the 5 tips, 5 ideas, and 5 signs. This concept was developed in partnership with Detective Constable Hugh Curry, and it's become a very popular request for presentations around human trafficking, specifically directed at parents. What we're finding is youth are aware of human trafficking and cyber safety being connected. It's parents that really don't see that connection. So this messaging is very simple and straightforward with 5 directives under each heading, and encouraging these adults to really connect with their young people and have a conversation about the relation between cyber safety and human trafficking, and it seems to be very well received. It was supported locally by 100 Men Who Give a Damn Guelph, because there was an advertising campaign done on our local radio, as well as a video campaign, and you can see those videos on our YouTube channel. We're very active in our social media, something that we know is key to make sure we're basically our own marketing department to keep that messaging out there. And as you can see, we have a range of messaging all tying back to Crime Stoppers. Very excited. Just a couple of weeks ago, we announced the second version of our roadside campaign. The signs were initially developed back in 2012, so they've lasted just over 10 years. Some of them were looking pretty tough. I'm sure you've seen a couple, or may still see a couple in the city of Guelph that are due for a refresh, and we are certainly working on it. We have 20 signs throughout the city of Guelph and County of Wellington. This is very much a departure from the previous look that we had with the road signs, and we really want to express our appreciation to the City of Guelph Public Works, because they're the gentlemen and folks that are installing these signs for us. So as you can see, there's the opportunity for partnership across the bottom. There's a variety of 6 themes for the signs. So this one is the hand holding the cell phone. There's also a puzzle piece theme, a keyboard theme, an inclusivity theme, just a variety of messaging so that people aren't going to get kind of tolerant of the messaging. We wanted to mix it up and do something different. And just a week or so ago, we were fortunate enough to host the Ontario Association of Crime Stoppers, the annual conference in AGM, which was held at the Delta Hotel in Guelph. This was the first in-person conference since 2019, so it was very exciting to get back into that in-person networking, all in the same room concept. And we had overwhelmingly positive
Luke
feedback.
Weiler entering lobby.
We just got our responses back this past week. It was exciting to showcase the City of Guelph and County of Wellington. And as you can see, we have local representation from Guelph Police Service and West Region OPP, and very much appreciated having Chief Kobe and Deputy Chief Gill's participation. Now, since I've seen you, we received some awards last fall, and the awards that you see on the screen are for our work in 2021. So this was very exciting, but since that has happened, I'm going to get us most up to date. These are the awards we won on June 2nd. So once again, Crime Stoppers Guelph Wellington demonstrating its effectiveness, not just in the community, but at a provincial level, and certainly from last year at the international level. We've received the Marla Moon Memorial Award of Excellence for 8 years in a row. And this year, I'm very proud to say that we were able to sweep the media categories for our population. So very exciting, especially to do that in our hometown with our partners in attendance. As always, I'd like to make sure that we're being transparent and illustrating the challenges that the program faces, as always, as all not-for-profit organizations have experienced. Fundraising, it continues to be a challenge, trying to find new ideas and keeping those traditions we've had long-term, and any support that we can receive to promote these events is always appreciated. We are low on our volunteers right now. While we do have 10 board members, 2 of them have had to go on leave. So we really are looking for engagement in the community to get our numbers back up. There's lots of opportunities and things that we would like to achieve moving forward, but we can only do that with community support. We are looking for radio engagement in the City of Guelph. We do have great support in other areas, but we just can't seem to crack through on our airwaves, and we would love an opportunity or any insight that could be provided to do that. And as always, our ongoing legal challenges, because of the nature of the work we do, we want to make sure our investigative partners are up to speed on best practices on how to handle the tip information, both during the investigative process and the court process. So any opportunity to train our officers is welcome. All right, hopefully I have not gone too quickly through that and still have time for the any questions that there might be.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board members? Okay. Well, hearing none, I'm going to thank you very much, Ms. Bowers-Peter, for your presentation. It's great to hear that about the good work that you're continuing to do and the great results. And we look forward to hearing from you again next year. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay. The next
Sarah Bowers-Peter left the call.
And this is from Duncan McKenzie and Mike Darman regarding loud vehicle bylaw enforcement. So I'm going to call on, I believe it is Duncan McKenzie who's going to be addressing the board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to ask right away, I may go over time. I understand you have the ability to give me extra time. I have
well, actually, we have a long board meeting today with many delegations, so we are going to hold it to 10 minutes.
I have a very long history with this particular matter. I brought it to City Council 11 years ago. Mr. Guthrie may remember this. I asked that the City Council do something about loud motorcycle noise. In a vote of 12-1, City Council gave a very clear, very emphatic statement that yes, something needed to be done about these loud motorcycles roaring around our city. in many different ways, I have tried to get the police to act on this. I gave former Chief de Ruyter $100 to make sure that the police purchased a decibel meter, which they would require, I understand, to measure the amount of sound coming from loud vehicles. I've been in a meeting with Mr. de Ruyter and with other deputy chief and the head of bylaw to look at the meter. I don't know that it's ever been used. I did ask through Mr. Colby's office. I phoned on Thursday to see if we could get some background information of how many charges have been laid in the intervening 11 years from the police related to this bylaw. My call was not returned. I called again on Friday. I left a message.
Excuse me, Mr. McKenzie. Delegates by our bylaws are to stick to the matter on what they are delegating to. And my understanding is that this was addressed with you outside of this. So please restrict your comments to the loud mufflers issue, please.
Really? Wow. Well, wow. Okay, well, I don't know if everyone knows that in the past month there was something called Muffler May. It was a PR campaign by the police. In the early part of May, sitting here in my second floor apartment on Norfolk Street, I heard 3 loud motorcycles going by. I called the communications office, not 911, obviously. I spoke to a woman who said, "Oh, did you get the license numbers?" No, I'm up. I can't run after motorcycles to get license numbers. She said, "Well, okay, maybe if somebody is in the vicinity, we can send somebody." And I thought, boy, this isn't apparently in the communications center acknowledged as being an important campaign by the police. A week or so later, I encountered 2 police constables on foot outside the public library. I was on my bike. I pulled up and I said, "Do you guys know what Muffler May is?" "Oh, yeah, we're both on traffic." And I said, "So, tell me a little bit about this." And one guy said, "Oh, yeah, last week I pulled over somebody and I gave this person not only a loud noise, but obstructed vision on his car and different things. I was using the Ontario Highway Traffic Act." So I came away with the impression, the other constable was silent about this. So I came away with the impression, okay, they're in traffic. It's Muffler May. There seems not to be, like every day, these traffic police could be pulling over loud vehicles somewhere in our community. There's no possible way you could go through an entire shift not encountering a loud vehicle going by. The third incident that I was involved with was I was riding north on Woolwich. A very loud motorcycle went by. I focused on the license number. I called in, eventually got to a recording of the traffic department. I said, "Here's the license number. I believe it's accurate." 2 days later, a constable called me back and said, I tried to track this number down, this license number. This license is not, it hasn't been renewed since since 2002, 2003. So my efforts, what I'm getting to is I just don't have a sense that police are really putting much effort into this. Over 10 years, I think it would be really nice to know if we had some statistics to work with about how much is this 12-1 city council told the police when a vehicle is moving on our streets and avenues around the city that they should be pulled over, they should be ticketed, they should be fined. Another point I wish to make is what I've learned in my working life is that when you come to a meeting with problems, you should also come forward with some solutions. And my first solution that I wish to propose to the police is stop depending on Duncan McKenzie or Donna Jennison or Mike Darman or any other citizen to call in a complaint. It seems to me the police can so often as 3 loud motorcycles go by, they could go in pursuit. They don't need me to complain. They could actually proactively react to a very loud nuisance source. It's just a no-brainer. And I think if anybody were to sit for any length of time in the police on Wyndham Street, in one of those patio areas where these loud vehicles are going by all the time. I was talking to a City of Guelph employee yesterday who told me that behind the Stone Road Mall, there's a congregation regularly of these motorcyclists who are ripping back and forth in the parking lot, roaring their engines and carrying on. You know, the police could be more proactive about this. The second proposal that I have that I wish traffic to do is just like there are ride programs at certain points of the year where certain numbers of police are set aside to stop potential drunk drivers. Why can't that same strategy be used in, let's say, for an hour on Victoria Road? They would set up and stop loud vehicles. Then they could move to Gordon Street and they could set up there, just so that the loud motorcyclists couldn't be alerting each other of where this stop was taking place. But why couldn't there, during the loud motorcycle season, why can't there be a concerted effort by the police for a change to stop loud vehicles roaring around our community day and night, and rid us of this thing? It's been 11 years since this bylaw was passed, and these vehicles are still roaring around. We're still having to endure, and it's not, to me, it's not a boys will be boys. Oh, well, you know, who cares? Something needs to be done about this. And all I've been experiencing for 11 years is indifference, intransigence. Just no interest by the police in doing anything about this. So, and I know it's a very small problem. I'm going to preempt the police reply by saying, I know in the big scheme of things, stolen vehicles, drug dealing, I understand this is a very small problem, but I still wish during idle time that the police have, that they could start doing something. And I guess the last thing, I have one other thing. I understand the police have a $2.1 million surplus from last year. $2.1 million. Could they not buy some more decibel meters? And every shift, the police are required to go out and use these meters and pull these people over. So yes, in summary, I just want to say I would like very much to hear from the police a commitment, not patting me on the head and saying, thank you very much for drawing our attention to this matter, but an actual commitment. Yes, you're right. We need to do more than we are doing. And I guess that's all I'd want to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, do any board members have any questions? Hearing none, I'm going to thank you, Mr. McKenzie, for your presentation, and Mr. Darman. And I will be calling on Donna Jennison also to address loud vehicle bylaw enforcement.
Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My delegation is also about vehicle noise from extreme souped up vehicles and altered mufflers. So I'm basically going to be reading something I wasn't sure about the format of this. So I'm treating this like a delegation that I would give at the City Council. Excessive noise is on the rise, and studies have shown that noise levels double or triple every 30 years and are one of the top 2 environmental hazards to both physical and mental health and well-being, second only to air pollution. So excessive noise interferes with our daily activities across the board. It disturbs sleep, reduces performance, and provokes anger, irritability, and hostility. Even when we think we've successfully tuned the sound out, noise triggers a cascade of reactions in the body beyond our control, including the release of excess cortisol and adrenaline and an increase in heart rate, blood pressure, and inflammation. Over time, with continued exposure, these changes lead to chronic inflammation and hypertension, increasing the risk of heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes. A 2013 academic study produced by the European Heart Journal shows that sustained noise, especially during the nighttime, can increase mental health issues for children and adults. And intermittent noise, like altered mufflers, extreme engine revving, and acceleration that break through background sounds, are considered even more detrimental to health than the continuous whirring of a busy roadway, even if the average decibel levels are the same. So it's this random nature of revving engines and massive acceleration in the middle of the night that causes a tremendous amount of stress and health impacts. Now, since COVID, there's been a sharp increase in the excessive, unnecessary, and illegal noise of stunt driving, revving of motorbikes, extreme car engines, and altered mufflers. These anti-social drivers travel for miles down our city streets. I hear them day and night. They disturb hundreds, if not people, in their wake. They use loud exhaust pipes and modifications to intentionally make noise. According to Sergeant Carrie Schmidt of the Ontario Provincial Police, stunt driving increased in excess of 120% since COVID and 140% since the beginning of 2022. What would typically be seen at night or on weekends is now more and more common midday, midweek, and during normal business hours. Loud vehicles, stunt driving, and aggressive driving habits are definitely linked, and they're increasing, and they're being normalized. Residents in cities around the world are desperately seeking solutions, and Guelph is no exception. Sitting for just 10 minutes, any busy intersection, or near a high school, during rush hour, over the lunch hour, on a nice Sunday afternoon, or a warm summer evening, one will be exposed to multiple noisy vehicles whose drivers are breaking the law, making their way, getting their thrill with carefree abandon at our expense. A group of Guelph residents are organizing to work together with City Council, City Bylaw staff, Guelph Police, the public, and like-minded organizations in Toronto and other provinces to strategize and build support for taking concerted, coordinated action against this serious and growing public health problem. We've been exploring questions like, what is the existing legislation that covers vehicle noise? Who's responsible for enforcing it? To what extent are existing laws being enforced? What are the challenges to enforcement? Do the police require special training or tools? Is enforcement more or less complaints driven? Can the public online reporting tools be streamlined and made more user-friendly? Has the traffic division's staffing kept up with the growing needs of a city? I've been told that there are 12 traffic police officers split between 4 shifts. That leaves 3 per shift. When one is off for training, illness, vacation, injury, that leaves 2 traffic officers per shift for this entire city at any one time. What would be required for the Guelph Police to form a dedicated noise team? What roles do the various levels of government play in dealing with this issue? Any help answering any of these questions would be very, very welcome. We have discovered that this is a complex and multifaceted problem. And it's quite overwhelming to figure out what do we have to do to take action on this issue. I live on Stevenson Street, and I can tell you I'm on blood pressure medication in the last couple of years, and it doesn't seem to be working. I'm wondering how much this street has to do with that. As our cities and we are along busy corridors, and as the number of cars and trucks and motorcycles on our roads increase, and as they get bigger and louder, the traffic driving will only increase unless we take action to protect residents and ensure safe, respectful, and quiet streets for everyone now and in the future. We must work together to develop plans to educate the public, establish safe decibel level limits, conduct and publish analysis on the culprits, and recommend actions, appropriate legislation, and fines. Our group is, among other things, exploring the use of noise camera technology. This technology includes microphones calibrated to start recording at a certain noise level, and then they trigger a nearby camera that snaps an image of the offending vehicle, whose owner is subsequently ticketed and fined under the provincial or municipal bylaws. Noise cameras are being piloted in numerous cities around the world, and they've been successfully deployed in New York City, where fines are $1,000 for first-time offenders and increased by $1,000 for each offense. It makes me wonder if Guelph's fines are nearly adequate enough. There's a growing body of evidence that demonstrates this technology can support public health, can free up the police, and pave the way for safer, quieter streets, maybe even provide a small revenue stream for the city, as well as stimulate important research into the health effects of different types of noise. So we're building relationships with engineers, elected officials, public interest groups to learn about the technology, the legislative requirements, pilot programs, and associated costs. And going forward, we welcome the Guelph Police and the Guelph Police Services Board to the discussion. And we hope that working together, we can find the solutions that we need to ensure safe and quiet streets for all. It is my experience that this problem is out of control. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any members of the board? Hearing none, I want to thank you very much for your time, Ms. Jennison. And now I would like to call on Luke Weiler also to speak to the issue of loud vehicle bylaw enforcement.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, super. Yeah, if I get choppy, please let me know. I've been having some minor internet issues today. So yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you making the time. I'm here to talk about the problem of noisy vehicles in the city, and I'm at my office at Norfolk and Suffolk, so you may hear a couple of these vehicles roar past as I'm making my submissions. I apologize in advance if you do. I want to say at the beginning, I didn't coordinate with anyone else coming here today. I'm here on my own. I didn't actually realize that there'd be so many people speaking to this. I'm just here out of frustration. I've been living in this city for over 20 years, and I think this is a continually worsening issue. The fact that there are multiple delegations, I think, just speaks to what a serious and growing problem it is. As far as my submissions go today, I'd like to just address the basic problem, speak briefly to the law, talk about what's being done about it and why that approach is not working, why this is an important issue, and propose a solution. The basic problem is that there's a lot of loud vehicles in this city. There's a lot of loud cars, a lot of loud motorcycles, and I would say that they're unlawfully loud, which is important. There's more every year in my estimation, and I think they're also getting louder too. They're infiltrating all the city all the time. They're going up and down our arterials. They go through the downtown, day and night both. I would say this has gotten to the point where the noise is no longer an unusual noise, but it's actually ubiquitous in the city. I'm seeing a lot of complaints about this online, on social media. I'm hearing complaints from other people through conversations. It seems to me that nothing serious is being done about this, and that the current strategy, which has been developed, is not going to result in success. And so I would say to this board that a strategy that is going to fail should be replaced with one that's going to succeed. The law, I'll just briefly touch on the law. The Highway Traffic Act, Section 75, Sub 1, and I know that I'm not telling anything new to the police, they know this stuff, requires all vehicles to have a muffler in good working order that operates to prevent excessive and unusual noise. That is the law, that's provincial law. Section 75.1 also prohibits muffler cutouts, straight exhaust, gutted mufflers, Hollywood mufflers, bypasses, and similar devices. 74 sub 5 prohibits a driver from causing their vehicle to at any time make any unnecessary noise. These are provincial regulatory offenses. Guelph bylaw 2000-16366 adds to this. 5.1 prohibits noise made by a combustion engine without an effective muffling device. 5.2 prohibits the operation of a motorcycle that fails to meet the noise limitation criteria in SAE J2825, which is an engineering standard. So there are laws on the books about this. The police acknowledge that this is a problem. In 2020, the Guelph Police Service launched Operation Noise Pollution, correctly named. It invited people to report noisy vehicles and stated that they'd be doing vehicle inspections for 2 days in August that year. Another noise blitz was announced this year. So the police do acknowledge that this is a problem that needs to be corrected, and that's good. That means that we're all on the same page about the problem. The problem is that the current strategy does not work, and I would go so far as to say it is certain to fail. Why does this not work? So there's no easy way to report vehicles. If you call the police switchboard, you'll get one of several different answers depending on who you speak with. Sometimes you're referred to a specific officer and told to call their extension and leave a message. Other times you're told to go to the website, file a report. Depending on who you talk to, you get different information about what kind of report you have to file. Some switchboard operators will frankly admit they don't actually know how the process works and they're not sure where you're supposed to send your report. And some, to be honest, give you a tone that suggests they think you're wasting their time and they've got bigger problems to deal with. If you do decide to submit a report online, you have to provide a truly invasive amount of personal information. Your full name, date of birth, gender, phone number, email address, residential address, postal code, etc. The system will not let you submit a report without providing all of this data, which is a barrier to marginalized communities. The system also is basically unusable on a phone, which is what most people use to access the internet these days. So if you want to submit a report, you have to go find a computer, which many people no longer own. All of this only works if you're prepared, if you're lucky enough to, and then prepared to memorize a license plate number and then find time later on your day to call up that number and then file the report. And then finally, nothing happens. In some cases, for weeks. You eventually get a call saying the report was processed, and then there's no follow-up ever again. You have no idea if it was checked out, if someone contacted the vehicle owner, if they just added it to a database of things to run if a car is pulled over, or if it was simply not actioned because the police have other problems they are dealing with. As a complainant, you will never hear about it again. You will never know if anything was done. Why is this bad? I get it. I understand the police only have so many resources. They have to prioritize what they're spending the resources on. Some people might say to you, this is not important. It's more like littering than something that actually hurts people. This is not correct. An earlier speaker spoke to the health consequences of excessive noise. According to the Environmental Protection Agency of the United States, there are direct links between health and noise. Problems related to noise include stress-related illnesses, high blood pressure, speech interference, hearing loss, sleep disruption, lost productivity. Toronto Public Health acknowledges that excessive environmental noise not only impacts quality of life and causes hearing loss, but also causes cardiovascular effects, cognitive impacts, sleep disturbance, and mental health problems. There is also emerging evidence, and I was shocked to learn this in preparing for today, that suggests exposure to environmental noise can lead to adverse pulmonary effects, increased mortality from diabetes, and negative behavioral impacts in children. The World Health Organization recommends that outdoor noise levels not exceed 55 decibels during the day. From an experiential perspective, loud vehicles are disruptive in a way that's completely out of scale to the number of people that are using them. They can provoke physical shock, they drown out conversation, they can create danger. When there's one of these things going past, you're distracted. You can't hear other things. You can't see other dangers like other vehicles that aren't making as much noise. They wake up infants, they disrupt the sleep of shift workers, and they can be heard from blocks away. So they can cause disruption across entire neighborhoods. A single person, a single bad actor, disrupting the peace of an entire neighborhood. Like a criminal mastermind. This is Batman stuff. And of course, you know, as is often the case, when we've got impacts on a community, usually the negative impacts, and in this case it's true, fall on our most vulnerable members. Low-income families, seniors on fixed incomes who use windows instead of air conditioning in the summer, people who live on arterials and are already subjected to the general din of traffic, infants and children who have to sleep during the day, shift workers, vulnerable road users like cyclists, people who have sensory issues associated with a disability. There is a social justice component to this. So my suggestion to you would be that the current system is not working, and we should be looking at a real solution. And this was already mentioned by the previous speaker. There is a solution in reach. It's noise cameras. It's basically a speed camera, but for excessively loud vehicles. I think this would make a serious difference. The city does not have a complicated street network. It's not like there's a million places for cars to go. There's only so many arterials and so many major intersections. If the police would like to know where to put these things, I can tell you right now. Edinburgh and Paisley, downtown, Woodlawn and Victoria. I think the previous speaker could give you a couple intersections too. You put those up, you will catch these drivers, you will get this problem under control. These are already being used around the world. Edmonton, Canada, New York City, the United Kingdom, Paris, France. These are in operation, they're already being rolled out, they are going through their troubleshooting phases, and they're ready for deployment here. I think that we should say, we're talking about a very small number of bad actors, but this is a growing problem, and it's a problem that's entirely out of scale to the number of offenders. I think there's every reason to believe it's going to continue to get worse unless a serious and effective plan is developed. The last thing I would say is, you know, I practice law as a profession. I care about the rule of law. There is a rule of law component to this. These are offenses that are being committed in broad daylight, day after day, in full view of the public. When people see other people flouting the law, that breeds contempt for the law. There's a reason why everyone speeds on the 401. It's because you see other people doing it. When you see other people not respecting the law, it makes you yourself less likely to take the law seriously. And I think that's a serious issue for our society. So I thank you very much for your time and your patience. If you have any questions, I'm happy to address them. But otherwise, I would just ask for the police to look at developing a new strategy to deal with this.
Thank you. Any questions from any board members? Hearing none, I would thank you very much, Mr. Weiler, and for your presentation, and for all our delegates today. Thank you very much. And at this point, we will move on to the agenda.
A point of order, Mr. Chair. I think
yeah.
Mayor Guthrie and I might have a couple of concerns.
Okay, by all means then.
And if Mayor Guthrie wants to go first, I'm fine with that too, by the way.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, my agenda's on the next screen here. Was Mike Darman also a delegate, or was Mike Darman just hanging out?
Mike Darman was part of was with Duncan McKenzie, and Duncan did the speaking for both of them. Oh,
okay. And did Duncan McKenzie take up the entirety of the 10-minute allocation, or was
he did?
Okay. Could I ask if there's been a mix-up here with the delegation? I just don't want to. I don't know if Mike Darman prepared something. I just don't want to feel like if there was a mix-up there that he should be allowed to speak. If I'm sorry, I'll leave it to you, Mr. Chair, to determine.
Okay. Well, I was advised that Duncan would be talking for both of them, but
okay.
If there's something brief that Mike would like to say, that's fine.
Okay. Can I jump in? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'll keep it very short because a lot of the subject has been covered already. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And my name is Mike Darman. I'm the chair of advocacy at the Guelph Coalition for Active Transportation, and our mission is to increase the quality, and safety of active transportation in the city of Guelph. Aggressive driving behavior is oftentimes accompanied by excessive noise from modified exhaust systems of vehicles operated by those same drivers. The aggressive driving poses a danger to our most vulnerable street users, including children, pedestrians, and cyclists. The excessive noise, especially while biking, can also cause intimidation and distraction to walkers, adding to the risk of accidents. It also should also be noted that many of these vehicle engine modifications lead to excessive exhaust emissions and poor air quality. Combined, these conditions do not encourage more use of active transportation, which we and the City of Guelph promote to reduce mobility car modal share and to meet our City of Guelph climate goals. GCAT therefore fully supports increased enforcement and compliance with bylaws and regulations pertaining to aggressive driving and excessive vehicular noise. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Does any board member have a question arising from Mr. Darman's presentation? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Darman, for your attendance today and your sorry, Phil.
No, not for Mr. Darman. I actually did have questions through you for Chief Kobe.
Okay. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Before I begin, I just want to check with Mayor Guthrie. One of the things that did concern me was a comment by one of the delegates about the relationship between City Council and the police. And I want to be very, very clear that the role and responsibility of City Council is to not provide direction to the police per se. The responsibility of the chief is to determine what is the best deployment of staff, and I would wait for Chief Kobe to do that. I don't want anybody to believe that we are heading down the road to a police state with council ordering the police what to do, and I think that's very important. I'm not trying to be glib with that. I'm really serious. I don't know, Mayor Guthrie, whether you want to make any reference to that or not.
Mr. Chair, can I respond?
Yes.
Sure. I guess I would just say ditto to what Councillor Altus said. Yeah, we at council cannot direct operationally the chief, and in fact, there's a lot of parameters even around that, I believe, from a governance standpoint of even the board. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to say. Good catch, just to make sure there was clarity there. So yeah, thank you very much. And I don't know if Councillor Alt's done, but I do have a question as well after he's done, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. My real concern, Mr. Chair, was to actually hear from the Chief of Police. I don't want to diminish the concerns that have been raised here. I think they're real, and I think that they are a problem. However, I also think that it is appropriate for us to hear from the chief on many of these things. There was a statement made that there was indifference and intransigence. I am not prepared to accept that that is true. On the other hand, I think that it's a problem that does warrant further oversight, and I need to hear from the chief. There were some suggestions made. I think they were very positive. I don't know what the potential to use those solutions might be at this point, whether proactive policing, noise cameras, etc., might work. But clearly, when we're dealing with noise, stunt drivers, and so on and so forth, Chief Kobe, if you would please provide any insights, it would be appreciated.
Sure, thanks so much. Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Alt, you can hear me? Yeah. So first of all, I would just like to thank all the delegates for taking time today to come and speak to us about the issue and about their concerns. Obviously, we do our very best, given our existing resources, to manage a variety of concerns throughout the city. I'm very happy, I'm looking at Deputy Gill, to follow up. I think to ensure the most fulsome and productive response, I'd like to maybe with Deputy Gill and our traffic team to kind of take away some of the concerns and ideas raised and then bring that back to the board next month with kind of a summary of not only some of the initiatives in the last few years, but we could look what possibilities exist, again, within existing resources and managing all the other demands throughout the city.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Mayor Guthrie?
Yeah, thanks, and through you, Mr. Chair. I think I just want to get some clarity. I think I know sort of what side of the fence this is on. But when it comes to noise cameras, that really wouldn't be under the police, I don't think. Would that be under the city to install them under the noise bylaw? I'm just wondering, like it's city council that voted for the red light cameras. It's city council that voted for the speed enforcement cameras that are coming out this fall. So I'm just wondering if this issue lands a little bit more under the city council realm. You probably just heard my phone ding because I already asked staff here at the city if we could. So let me look at what the answer is. So, good timing. Okay, it looks like I was right. Everything I just said there. It looks like it would kind of fall under the city side of things because I will admit that the observations made by the delegations, like they're correct. Like, you know, they are. So maybe this is just something from the operational side, with, you know, from the police side, that you can look into it a bit more, as you said, Chief. But I hope you don't mind me saying, Mr. Chair, I'll look into this a little bit more on my side too.
Thank you.
And just through you, Mr. Chair, in response to Mr. Mayor, I'm more than happy to take this away. I'd rather not just like kind of blurt out the wrong answer. So I'd like to actually do a proper review. More than happy to come back to the board with a report that through our deputy and our traffic unit to address the issue in a more fulsome way.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions on this matter? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the open meeting of May 18th. Can I get a mover for the approval of those minutes?
Duncan Mackenzie left the call.
Seconded by Councillor Alt. All in favor? Opposed? I'll declare that carried. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. Can I have a mover? Mayor Guthrie, seconded by Mr. Sharma. In favor?
And Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move consent. However, I did want to pull
Mike,
one item
guest,
for a quick
left the
added
call.
motion. If you don't mind, I'll just I'll do that.
Okay.
Donna Jennison, guest, left the call.
About the sponsorship for the conference of the Canadian Association of Police Governance.
Luke Weiler left the call.
I'm wondering if you don't mind, if we could just deal with that, and we can see what the will of the board is on that particular one first. So I'm happy to move the motion that's requested on that particular item, which is the $500. And then I just have a follow-up motion after that.
Okay. Seconder for that? Councillor Alt? In favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay,
All
so
right,
please
great.
proceed.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to table another motion here. I'm just trying to do this for efficiency because this is an annual thing that comes all the time. So I have another motion to table that I've sent to Leslie, that the Police Services Board gives staff delegated authority up to an annual amount of $500 to support and sponsor the conference of the Canadian Association of Police Governance. And I'm moving that motion so that this does not have to come back every single year.
Seconder? Mr. Sharma, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. And then with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move the rest of consent.
Okay, and seconder for the remainder of the consent? Councillor Alt? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is support of staffing. If I could ask Chief Goby to please address this item.
Sure, I'm happy to. So I wanted to start. I know the board has read the report, and now presumptive legislation. In 2016, the Ontario government introduced the Supporting Ontario's First Responders Act. And I want to read to you a quote from the Minister of Labour of the day. We know that PTSD is a serious and debilitating injury, and that Ontario's dedicated first responders are more than twice as likely to suffer from it. They put themselves in harm's way each and every day to ensure our safety, and we need to be sure they have the resources and treatment they need to heal and return to work safely. Coupled with the prevention and resiliency training the province is putting in place, this act is an important step forward in recognizing the importance of psychological health in the workplace, and it will provide first responders and their families with peace of mind. So that quote from 2016, the Minister of Labour of the day, as indicated in the report that you have before you, since the implementation of the presumptive legislation, we've experienced an ever-increasing number of leaves. However, there's not been a corresponding increase to our WSIB budget. As a result of this shortfall, our leaves have been consistently managed by operating at a reduced deployable member complement in order to support those on leave to ensure they have the required support and operate within our approved budget. The situation before us is no longer sustainable. Our members are being called to respond to an increasing number of difficult and violent situations. Increasingly, they themselves are the targets of disrespectful, degrading, and violent acts. While we have made a great deal of progress enhancing the wellness and treatment programs available for our members, I believe if you were to ask any of them, they would say that the greatest support we can provide, the greatest proactive support we can provide to them and their families is to ensure they have the resources required to carry out their difficult jobs in a safe, effective, and sustainable way. Ultimately, it's been legislative acknowledged that police officers and other first responders are more likely to be exposed to traumatic events leading to operational stress injuries. The supportive staffing being requested is a critical first step to sustain our ability to provide adequate and effective services for our citizens, support those members who need time away from work, and to ensure the health and safety of the members who are at work each and every day serving our citizens. So I've summarized, distilled the 7-page report, and rather than going through it page by page, I know you've all read it. I wanted to find out if there are specific questions in relation to the report that between myself, the deputies, and I know Kelly, our HR advisor, is online as well. So with that, Mr. Chair, I open it up for questions.
Are there any Vice Chair Armstrong?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would preface this by saying I'm supportive of the recommendation, but I just had a clarification question regarding the report. There's a reference on this is page 18 to 6 police positions and 6 civilian positions having been permanently backfilled with supportive staffing positions. And I'm just curious, how is that different from what we're being asked to do today?
So essentially over the years, so we currently have a total of 26 people who are on long-term leaves, 18 police, 8 civilian. In an ad hoc way over the years, we have gone to the board to request permission to get certain backfills for certain positions. What we would like to do, and we will, in line with the KPMG recommendations and the coroner's report, that I won't start quoting everything you've already read. What we would like to do is to stop having an ad hoc approach to this situation, and to essentially, once a member has been away from work for a year on a presumptive WSIB leave, and there's no prognosis for their return, so that we as a standard operating procedure, we fill that position to provide that support. We've already done that in an ad hoc fashion for 12. So essentially what we're asking today is, and the full implementation will be part of the 4-year budget process. So you'll see the full implementation as we have those discussions later in the fall. But we're asking today for 4 people immediately so that we can hire those people now, get them to the Ontario Police College in September so that they'll be ready in January to start providing support. And like we have 4 frontline platoons, so that would give relief, even 1 person per platoon to give that initial relief. So we need to get away from the ad hoc approach to wait till a unit or a platoon or a situation is the point where like we need to come to you saying we're at a crisis and have a more appropriate process so we can manage these leaves. I think a very important question, if I was you, that I would ask is, well, if, for example, if you staff Gord Kobe's spot, if I come to work, if I return to work after 1 year, 2 years, then we'll clearly absorb that supportive staffing position through attrition or through the anticipated growth that we're going to see in years to come. So that's how we would manage a return. I hope that's helpful.
It is. Thank you.
Kelly, do you have anything to add? Did I capture the essence of everything there?
Nothing to add, Chief. You certainly covered it.
Okay. Any further questions? So, Chief Kobe, what is the motion that you're looking for today? Is it a motion?
So I am looking for the board's approval today to immediately staff 4 positions. That has no impact on the 2023 finances. So we have estimated that we could hire 4 people now to have them ready to go to OPC in September with existing dollars. The financial implications for 2024 and beyond are provided in the board report. But I'm looking for the board's approval today so that we can hire 4 people, provide that relief, and have those folks ready to go to the Ontario Police College in September.
Okay. Do I have a mover for that? Vice Chair Armstrong, do I have a seconder? Mr. Sharma, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, was there a second component to that, Chief Kobe? Were we also looking to make this a proactive policy going forward for at the 12 months, or are we going to address that somehow later on?
Well, that is absolutely our intent, but I think so the board has kind of a fulsome amount of information to make that. Our plan was to make that as part of the multi-year budget process. You'll see that in September. But I think it's essential that we get away from this ad hoc nature of doing business, and we build in for our members, for our citizens, a standard way to support folks who are away, but also provide support to folks who are here every day.
Thank you. Chief Kobe, could you please speak to the 2022 annual report?
I am very happy to. So 2022 was another busy year. Again, I know everyone's read the report, so I promise I'm not going to read the entire report. I'm going to pull some highlights from it, and then I look forward to any questions. In 2022, our service continued to grow and evolve as we worked hard to support our community and our citizens. I'm incredibly proud of the excellent work done by our members and grateful for their service and sacrifice during what has been an incredibly dynamic and demanding time for policing locally and throughout the country. We continue to make progress in a lot of areas, a couple of key areas. We're very proud and privileged our service was able to engage the services of retired Chief Devon Clunas. Devon has worked with us in a number of ways. Devon was part of our senior officer promotion process. He's helping us develop strategic planning, leadership, executive, equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives. And in fact, we brought him to to Guelph a couple of weeks ago as we had a leadership symposium for our leaders. We were also very happy. We're working hard to proactively prepare our service to be future ready and support our citizens, not just this year, 2024, 2025, but to look ahead to 2050, where we anticipate unprecedented growth in the years to come for our city. To that end, in 2022, we engaged KPMG. I know we've talked about that quite a bit. You have a copy of that in this report as well. But it's a demonstration of our commitment. We want to be the most trusted, sophisticated, and effective police service in the country, and that long-term strategic planning, both on the operations and the resourcing side, is critical, which is why we engaged KPMG. If you look to some of our community policing initiatives, 18 of our members, as well as victim services members, completed the Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design program. This allows our members to support our citizens as they can provide suggestions for ways to deter provincial criminal activities from occurring and in their own residence and properties. We also launched a pre-charge diversion program for introduction in January 2022 and focuses on restorative justice and using the relationships with community organizations to address minor offenses rather than entering the criminal justice process. I'll just stop there to see if there's any questions. I won't read the whole thing, I promise, Mr. Chair. I'm just doing some highlights.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Chief Cody. Are there any questions from anybody on the board? Vice Chair Armstrong?
Just a quick question in terms of distribution. It's an excellent report, and I see that it's going to be available on the website. Is there any intention of distributing links to it on social media?
We absolutely, so we will look to see the broadest possible distribution. I know that Lauren is online, and I think it's really important. So Lauren is our University of Guelph Co-op student. Lauren played an incredibly important role in building this report along with our research unit. So we will be looking to, again, not only on the website, but the most broadest distribution possible we will be doing that.
Excellent, thank you.
Judith, did you have anything to add, or are we? I'll continue.
No, I think we're good on that. Absolutely.
I think when the board has an opportunity, and I'm hopeful the community goes through the report. We've worked hard in the last couple of years, and when I say we, I say Lauren, so you can't see her, but Lauren deserves a great deal of credit to really make the report more easy to read and understand for folks. I think that as our city continues to grow, if we look at our calls for service, we had over 5,000 more calls for service last year than the year before. So that's year over year, an increase of about 5,000 calls to just under 78,000 calls for service last year. Some of the areas that we're going to have to ensure we stay quite focused on our priority one response times last year were a few seconds slower than the year before. So that's obviously a trend we want to look at after several years in a row of improving that. We want to make sure that we're monitoring those. Our rate of criminal code offenses, excluding traffic, increased by 7.7% last year. So that's another trend that we have to be mindful of. Our violent crime rose by 18.9% in 2022. We had 2 murders and 2 attempt murders last year, as compared to the year before, there were none. So obviously that has a significant impact. And also property crime increased in 2022 by 6.5%. Maybe not surprising to some, chief among these increases were motor vehicle thefts, thefts from most motor vehicles. However, break and enters decreased by 8.4% last year. So cyber crimes, though, cyber and hate crimes decreased, but were virtually unchanged from the year before. So all of these things are areas that we need to be mindful of. If you turn to the financial indicators page 26 of the report, and maybe we've come through COVID, increases in calls and crime rates. We had almost 10,000 more sick time hours last year than we did the year before. So that speaks to wellness. Aligned with sick time hours were also a significant increase in overtime hours. So this is aligned with the request you just approved with respect to supportive staffing, also aligned with our KPMG report in those recommendations. So I'll stop there. I invite the board and the community to review the report, and I'll just invite any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chief Kobe. Any questions from any of the members of the board? Okay, hearing none, I think we can move on to our next item, and that is the use of force report. Chief Kobe, would you be able to speak to that for us?
I certainly can. Just give me a moment, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I'm just catching up in my PDF, 150 pages. Just making sure.
Yes, you'll find it at page 134, I believe.
Yeah. So before we talk about our use of force report, and again, I know the board has read it, but as you can see, we responded to just under 80,000 calls for service last year. Of that number, 99 incidents led to use of force reports being submitted. And you can tell just by that percent, our goal is the vast majority of the time, our members navigate difficult calls. They have thousands and thousands of interactions. So before we just talked about the stats with respect to use of force, I wanted to ask Sergeant Dustin Howe. Sergeant Howe was in charge of our training unit. I wanted Dustin to give the board and the community kind of an idea with respect to the training and the overall emphasis that we put on de-escalating, resolving conflict. As you can tell, 99 out of almost 80,000 is an incredibly small number of occurrences, but every single one of those are important. They are reviewed. So I want to give Dustin just a chance for the board to give an idea of the priority placed on de-escalation and resolving. So Dustin, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Chief. And through you, Mr. Chair, thank you to the members of the board for the opportunity to talk about our use of force training at the Guelph Police Service. Like the Chief said, my name is Dustin Howe, and I work as a supervisor in our training branch. So as a police service, for some background, the ministry obviously prescribes some training which we have to complete. Sometimes that's doing something specific for a certain amount of time or doing a certain number of things numerically. So obviously we complete that training, but interwoven with that, we also have additional training where we instill an approach to use of force training, which emphasizes de-escalation as the foundation. So we build on that foundation with a planning mechanism where we ask the officers to assess the situation, plan, and then act, or in some cases not act. So within that foundation and on that foundation, we prioritize, just as the Chief said, communication, language, conflict management. So sometimes not taking any action assists with de-escalation. So just as a really quick example, does an officer call a person on a phone, or do they go to their door? Do they talk to somebody quietly in public from a close distance, or do they speak loudly from across the street? So these are the very foundational approaches that we consider and believe contribute to de-escalation. Earlier this year, you heard from the president of the Police Association when he presented to the board at a meeting and discussed the violence that police officers have been subject to recently. Similarly, officers are increasingly and necessarily requested by the public to attend to calls for service, which are they're complicated, they're difficult, and frankly, sometimes they're violent. So along that avenue, we have new training that we've started employing called Axon Virtual Reality Training. So this training allows officers to enter immersive scenarios that are created by subject matter experts. And this training prioritizes empathy, de-escalation, and it weaves well with the rest of the training that we have at the service. The benefit of this training is that it can be used at almost any time since it's a headset. And we believe that this immersive training, coupled with our annual training, is modern and it's really important. Sort of just to close, The ongoing training that we provide to our officers, we feel that they're really well equipped to do the job. They leverage their communication skills to de-escalate whenever that's possible, and hopefully that achieves the best outcomes during like really very stressful situations. Thank you. Sorry, Chief, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I thought it was really important because just by obviously the topic, annual use of force, I think it's important that as we go through the report, the foundation, the goal of our members is to constantly de-escalate and resolve conflict. So thank you, Dustin. I really appreciate that. Now, does anybody have any questions for Dustin before I go through some highlights? No? Okay. So if you look at our annual use of force, obviously it gives you a summary of when an officer has to fill out a use of force report. It's important to note, so if you look at the first couple pages, if a member uses, deploys, or displays, for example, say a conducted energy weapon, a taser, if a member was to unholster that and display it, that requires the submission of a use of force report. So it's really important to make sure we remember to be transparent, to make sure we're compliant with provincial expectations. To deploy or display would result in the issue or the completion of a use of force, and it also includes involvement that our members have within our own jurisdiction and outside of our jurisdiction. So if our tactical team deploys to the GTA to support in the execution of judicially authorized search warrants, any involvement they have there, they also have to submit use of force reports here. So it often isn't always activity or subjects from Guelph that are our residents. So that's this year. I think you'll notice we've tried to really expand the amount of information within the report, because we want the board and the community to understand kind of the situations that our members are faced with. If you look at page 3, you'll see that 80.8 or almost 81% of the time, the 99 incidents involve situations where we were called to a situation to deal with it. 19% or 19 of those were officer initiated. 13 of those 19 times, we were executing search warrants, so judicially authorized search warrants. We've also tried to give, the definition section so the board is aware. Obviously, it's very important. Sorry, Mr. Chair, do you have a question?
No, sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's important, as of January 1st, 2020, under the Anti-Racism Act, police services are required to collect data on the perceived race of those subjects involved in reportable use of force incidents. All information is gathered is used to verify, monitor, and address potential racist bias, racial bias or profiling. So you'll see data with respect to those individuals and the various categories as determined by the province. And also you'll see on Appendix A, the annual use of force statistics. So I want to point out the note at the bottom of that chart. Previously, when a use of force incident was reported, only the highest level of force used in an incident was reported. Starting last year, all levels of force used during an incident are reported. So for example, in a scenario where a firearm was both drawn and pointed prior to 2022, that would be 1 incident. Now that would be 2. So that explains, we've tried to provide some context for what you will note is an increased number of those this year. And also it's important to note in 2022, our tactical response unit was deployed for all criminal code search warrants. So for both a police and public officer safety reason, we want to ensure our tactical units are being used when we execute our search warrants. So that those are 2 noteworthy things to consider. And near the end of that, what we've done this year for the first time ever is we've broken down each of the 99 incidents so that we can give the board and the community an understanding. These are the situations that our members were confronted with when those use of force reports were submitted. So I'm certainly not going to go through each of them, but with that, Mr. Chair, I welcome any comments, questions in relation.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the board members? Okay, hearing none, I believe we can move to the chief's monthly report.
Thank you very much. Now, first, I know we had one item, and I only have one thing in our my monthly
Dustin
report,
Howe left the call.
in addition to everything we've just talked about. But in our consent agenda, we had the promotions report, and I wanted to take a moment to just recognize and acknowledge. So obviously, the board, this is Deputy Gill's third meeting as Deputy Gill, I think. But obviously, the deputy's appointment brought with it the promotion of several members, and that is Inspector Jamie Caravellis, Staff Sergeant Brad Saint, and Sergeant Dan Conley. And on behalf of our service, our leadership team, and I know the board, I want to congratulate Jamie, Brad, and Dan, and really thank them for not only their very hard work that has led to them in their new roles, but just their dedication and their commitment to leadership. I think we all know that leadership is a very important, it's an incredible opportunity, but it is an incredible responsibility that takes a lot of work and commitment to supporting the service and our members. So I thought it was important to recognize them and congratulate and thank them. And with that, Mr. Chair, that is the end of my monthly report.
Thank you very much, Chief Kobe. Is there any new business from arising? Hearing none, I'll declare that closed. Next item is information items, and that is our next open meeting will be on Thursday, July 20th, 2023 at 2:30 via Teams and live streamed on YouTube. And at this point, it's adjournment. Is there a mover for adjournment? Mayor Guthrie, seconded by Councillor Alt. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Lisa Pelton left the call. 2 participants left the call. 2 participants left the call. 4 participants left the call. Steve Gill left the call. Ajay Sharma left the call. Leslie Lochsella left the call.